Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm gonna show you how to make a very delicious spicy millet drink, popularly known as Kunun Zaki in Nigeria. So let us talk about the ingredients. I'm gonna be using 2 cups of millet flour. You could use the actual grain. I'm using 4 to 5 pods of chili pepper, half a tablespoon of cloves, and some ginger. You can use ginger to your taste. And I'm gonna be mixing it with 2 cups of water. So I'm gonna start by cutting the ginger into smaller pieces so that my blender can handle it. Then when I'm done, I'm gonna add everything into the blender to blend. So I'm gonna add the ginger, cloves, and pepper. I will also use some part of the 2 cups of water to blend it. When I'm done cutting the ginger, I'm gonna add it to the blender, add the cloves and the pepper and some water. I'm gonna blend it until it is smooth. When the blend is ready, I'm gonna pour it into the flour. Use some part of the water to rinse out the cup. Make it for not lost to get out all the spices. Then I'm gonna mix it to combine. In case you have millet grains, you can process it 2 ways. You could either turn it into flour and do what I just did, or you could wash the seeds and soak them overnight or over 8 hours until the grains are soft. Then you can blend or grind them. In case you are wondering why I am soaking the flour, since there is no need to blend it, I am trying to ferment it. Fermentation is part of the kunu making process. So you could soak it for 8 to 10 hours, but I'm gonna do mine overnight. Then the next day we're gonna continue from where we stopped. So I'm gonna cover it and set it aside until the next day. So this is the next day. This is what it looks like. I'm going to filter it the way you filter akamu, and I'm gonna use 4 cups of water to do it. I'm also gonna be using chiffon cloth and a sieve to act as a structure to hold the chiffon in place. I know a lot of people don't make their kunu like this, but just bear with me, it is still the same thing and you might even like this method. Come to think of it, you only need the starch to make kunu. You don't need the starch and the chaff to make it. Trust me, I have done it both ways and I am telling you the result is always the same. So the bottom line is the starch. Whether you filter it before you make it into akamu, or you leave the chaff in and make it into akamu before you filter it, the result is the same. I'm not gonna say one method is better than the other, but just think about it. You only need the starch. Why not just separate it at the beginning, get rid of it, and just do it this simple, straightforward way? So this is me showing you another way to make kunu. This could be easier for some people to follow or not. So if this is your first time on my channel, or you are a returning viewer and you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button and on the notification bell so that you can get an alert whenever I post a video. Like and share the video. Thank you and God bless you. Let me also use this opportunity to send a very special shout out to all those that have subscribed. You guys are the best. I love you. Thank you and God bless you. After exhausting the 4 cups of water, I'm gonna let the sieve sit inside the bowl so that I can continue to use the water in the bowl to extract the starch. When the starch is finally extracted, one way to check is to squeeze the chaff. When it is no longer slippery, then you know the starch has been extracted. Now that the starch has been extracted, I'm gonna wring it out to get out the remaining water. Like I told you guys about the other popular method of making kunu, this is usually the last step. After they have made it into akamu, then they filter it. But you just think about it. It's not as if you're gonna pasteurize it before you drink it. No, this is it. So to me, I think it makes more sense to just filter it before you make it into akamu. So this is the leftover chaff. You can throw it away. There's no use for it. Did you hear that? Unfortunately, this is what happens when you use store-bought millet flour. You know millet has lots of stones, sand, so you have to separate the sand from the millet before you process it. So if you are using store-bought millet flour, this is what happens. So I'm going to show you the remedy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stir it because starch naturally settles at the bottom, so does sand. So I'm going to stir it, then gently decant it. So the starch is going to mix with the water, but the sand is going to settle at the bottom. So I'm going to repeat this multiple times. It is just like there's no escaping of this. Millet and sand are just like 5 and 6. You have to deal with it. When I'm done, I'm gonna set it aside so that the starch can settle at the bottom. As you can see, the starch has finally settled. So I'm gonna heat up 8 cups of water and bring it to a boil. In the meantime, I'm gonna separate the water from the starch. I'm not gonna toss the water. I'm gonna set it aside because I'm gonna need it later to dilute it, because this is a very important part of the recipe. It has some starch and the spices. This is really not a lot of starch, but I'm gonna split it into 2 unequal parts. Most of the time people just eyeball it, but just make sure that the main portion is larger than the lesser portion. So the water has come to a boil. This is how your water should be boiling before you make the akamu. So pour hot boiling water into the slurry and stir. There is a popular saying in Nigeria that no matter how good you are in the kitchen, akamu will surely disgrace you, which is largely true, but not so when you are making kunu, and that is the good thing about making kunu. Whether it forms lumps or not, it is of no consequence because they are always filtered out. This is one reason the popular method of making kunu makes sense, because at the end of the day, the liquid is filtered out and every other thing is trapped in the filter or the cloth. Unfortunately, mine developed lumps and I have been able to reduce them considerably by stirring it constantly. But not to worry, I'm going to show you how to get rid of the undissolved lumps. Oh, before I forget, I only used 6 cups of hot boiling water to make the akamu, not the whole 8 cups. Because this is not a lot, I'm gonna let it cool for about 30 to 40 minutes. This is 45 minutes later, so I'm gonna mix everything together. Remember this liquid? I'm gonna add a little bit to the slurry, mix it properly, then add it to the millet pap. Mix to combine. Though the pap is still warm, but it is not hot enough to cook the slurry. This is the secret of making the perfect kunu. This is the traditional Hausa kunu. So I'm gonna add the remaining liquid after stirring it properly. Then I'm gonna mix to combine. This liquid has all the kunu flavors, so it doesn't make any sense to throw it away. So add liquids to your own taste and desire. I prefer mine to be very liquidy, the way I have always known Kunun Zaki. At this point, you can add sugar, then bottle it, or you could leave it longer to ferment. So I left mine for about 3 hours. This is what it looks like after fermentation. You could leave it longer. As you can see, the signature look of kunu. If your kunu does not settle like this, I don't know what you've made. So you guys have seen the end result of the kunu I made using my method. Let me show you the end result of the kunu I made using the other method. See? They look the same, there's no difference. So it is up to you to use whichever method works for you. Don't forget to add sugar and add sugar to your taste. One interesting thing about this drink, Kunun Zaki, in Hausa, Kunun Zaki means sweet drink. But in actuality, it is not a sweet drink, it is a spicy drink. So when you add too much sugar to it, it is going to take away from the traditional signature Kunun Zaki flavor, which is spicy, but feel free to add sugar to your taste. I used only 3/4 cup of sugar. So the final step before bottling the kunu, like I told you earlier, is to get rid of any lumps from your kunu. So because I used a different method, this is how I usually get rid of the lumps. So we have a very smooth and lump-free kunu. Finally, it is time to bottle this delicious goodness. You can use any bottle of your choice, but if you are using recycled bottles, make sure the bottles are clean before using them. So while we are pouring, let me tell you a little bit about my kunu experience. When I was much younger in Kano State, this is the type of kunu I used to drink. Very light and refreshing. So when I became older and moved to the Delta State, I had a neighbor that made kunu and zobo. That was her trade. She made it every day. And I have tasted a zobo, but I couldn't bring myself to tasting the kunu because I kept telling myself this is akamu, this is light akamu, because it was too thick for my liking. But I have noticed that it is a trend, it is a new trend. People make their kunu very thick because it is very filling. So I totally get it. Some people only know about the thicker version, while some others prefer the lighter version. So whichever one you prefer, enjoy. This kunu has so many health benefits, especially from the spices, the ginger, cloves, even from the millet. It also hydrates you because you're going to be drinking lots of fluid. So let us taste the chilled Kunun Zaki. It is spicy but not peppery. You don't feel it on your tongue. You feel it at the back of your throat and it warms up your body. It has this unique flavor that is as a result of the combination of ginger and cloves, which is a very unique Hausa flavor. For you to know that you have made an authentic Kunun Zaki, it has to have this quality. It settles. I am sure that you have noticed that when people buy kunu, they always shake the bottle to mix it together. This is a very authentic Kunun Zaki. It is very light, spicy, and refreshing. So now that you know how to make Kunun Zaki, why don't you give this recipe a try? I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. Instead, you're going to love it. So thank you guys for watching. Till I see you next time. Stay safe, stay blessed. I love you. Bye.